This is the Geimori T38 Portable Precision Coffee Grinder. If you're interested in hearing my thoughts on it, keep watching. Now, before we get started, I do want to thank the company My Worsh for offering to send out the T38 so that I could share it with you. So I've been using this coffee grinder every day, twice a day for the last 3 weeks, and I think I've gained enough experience with it that I can share my thoughts on it. So what I thought we would do is go down to the tabletop. I'll go through the key features of the coffee grinder, a few of its specifications, but more importantly, I want to offer a few demonstrations using it. Now, just before we focus in on the Geimori T38 portable coffee grinder, I want to talk for a minute about who this grinder is intended for and why you might be interested in taking another look at it. Prior to having this electric coffee grinder sent to me by My Worsh, I wasn't even aware that they exist. I mean, all the grinding I did when I was hiking, off-grid car camping, or even making a single cup of coffee from myself at home was a traditional manual hand grinder. And yeah, they worked, but now that I have this, well, I can certainly see the advantages. And number one, this is a precision grinder. I'm able to get a more consistent, precise grind with this grinder than I ever was with any of the hand grinders I own. It's also much easier to be used. I just pour the coffee and hit the button, and well, but usually about a minute. We'll talk about the time in a minute. It will, give me just exactly what I'm looking for in terms of my grind. This has a much greater range than any of my manual grinders does as well, from a very fine espresso powder to quite a coarse grind, which is great for French press or other types of brews as well. And I'll show you the range in a moment. I'll actually grind some coffee so that you can see what I'm talking about. And I guess the thing that we need to discuss first is, why is it important to get a consistent grind in your coffee? Well, it all has to do with the quality of the finished product that's in your cup. So when we make coffee at home and we're trying to achieve, or anywhere for that matter, and we're trying to achieve the best cup possible, one of the things we're looking for is consistency of the variables, the control that we have over all the variables. I mean, number one, you got to have good coffee. And as you know, I'm still liking the Rampage coffee. So you got to have a good craft coffee if you want a good cup of coffee. So that's number one. But the other things are the method, of course, and you will choose the method of making the coffee yourself, whether it is French press, whether it is pour over, or one of my favorites is AeroPress, or if it's an espresso maker of one type or another. Once you've got that and you've got the good coffee, then the other variables are things like the water itself, the quality of the water, the temperature of the water, and of course the recipe. What is the ratio of water to coffee? But something that doesn't often get considered is the grinder itself and how important it is in determining the quality of the finished cup. You need to have the grind size to the right diameter or the right size of grinds to match the recipe that you're using and the type of brewer that you're using for making your coffee. More importantly, it's got to be consistent. In other words, the grinds themselves need to be as close to the same size throughout the batch that you grind as possible, and you need to be able to recreate that each time you put coffee in the grinder. So that's why I feel something like this is really aimed at somebody who's looking to make the best cup of coffee possible, and they're on the move and they have been relying on a hand grinder, but maybe they just can't achieve the same level of quality that they can at home. That's who this really is for. Okay, what we're going to do is we're going to focus in on the grinder itself. First, I'm going to show you what came with it. Then I'll talk about its key features and a few of its specifications. Then I'm going to do a demonstration of the extremes of which this coffee grinder will perform. All right, let's get started. Now, before we focus in on the Geimori T38 coffee grinder, I wanted to first show you what it came with. So let me set the grinder aside. So this is the case that the coffee grinder arrived. Now, before I open the case up, I just want to mention that when the coffee grinder first arrived, my understanding was that it was about to enter into Kickstarter. Now, whether it's in Kickstarter when you view this video, I won't be sure, but of course, now I'll give you the link and it'll either be in Kickstarter or offered up for sale when you see it. Now, the reason I'm mentioning that is the case itself. From the outside, it's just a nice hard shell case. It's very functional, of course, but it's the inside that I was a little bit disappointed with. So the foam that's used to hold the grinder and accessories inside looks like packing foam to me. It doesn't look like a high quality, long lasting type of foam you might get in something that with a fitted case like this. My hope is that this is a pre-production case and that the final product will have something nicer on the inside of it. I mean, it just doesn't seem to match the quality of the grinder itself. I mean, it is functional, it just doesn't look durable. Maybe that's the way to say it. But what else do you get with the grinder itself? Well, of course, you're going to get a manual. The manual is all important in product registration for the warranty as well. Now, the operation of the grinder is very, very simple in its own right, but there's also instructions on how to disassemble the grinder so you can get at the conical burrs so that you can do a clean out every once in a while and some maintenance. So that's important to have. Now, to aid you with the cleaning and maintenance, they do offer this nice little brush that you can reach in and get into the corners and dust out any coffee that may have been left behind. And the only other thing that comes with it is a charging cable, USB Type-C charging cable for the unit. So let me just set the case aside, bring the grinder back in. So what I want to do now is just go through the key features for this grinder and tell you why it's different from anything else that I've tried and why it might be worth looking at for you. So to start with, one of the top features for this grinder is the fact that it has what's known as zero retention or mess-free grinding. So what can happen with a coffee grinder when it's being used from one session to the next is that some of the coffee from the previous session gets left inside of the grinder. So when you pour coffee in for your next cup and you go to grind it, the first coffee out came from the last cup or the preparation for the last cup. Now, a couple of things there, of course, is one, you may be using a different coffee, so you don't want to have some of the leftover coffee from before impacting the flavor of the new coffee that you're about to brew. It may also have been set at a different grind size, so now you're going to have maybe some very fine coffee going in with your coarsely ground coffee that you're now going to use in a French press, and that would end up in some silver fines in your cup. So you don't want that happening either. And of course, if you haven't used it in a few days, the coffee left inside would have gone stale. So to avoid all of those, Geimori designed this with a very short distance from the conical burrs to the spout, or I guess you call it the spout, that will pour into the little cup, the collection cup itself. And that means that when coffee is ground and goes through, there's really nowhere for it to hang up, nowhere for it to hide itself so that it's impacting your next cup of coffee. So that's an important thing and a nice feature to be aware of as well. Now, all important, of course, in any grinder, doesn't matter what, if it's a hand grinder or electric grinder or a portable one like this, is the burrs themselves, the type of grinding mechanism. Now, you're not going to be able to see this very, very clearly, but I'll try and show you. But inside of here is a precision ground 38 millimeter 6-axis conical burr. Now, what that means is that it grinds together. It's not a blade grinder like a lot of the kitchen ones will have at home. This is a conical burr grinder, and it's very high precision. In fact, they're using a high-quality stainless steel hardened to 58 on the Rockwell scale, and it gives you a consistent grind from one ground or one batch to the next batch and won't wear out, or at least it'll take for a long, long time to wear out. So that's what the burrs are all about. Now, the next feature is the fact that it has such a wide range of grinding size. Now, I'm going to give you a demonstration, but the micron adjustments on the outside range from 0, which is like a powder you could use in a Turkish coffee, all the way up to 65, which would be something you might want to use in a French press because it's going to be, of course, quite coarse. Now, the step adjustments are stepless. In other words, it's not a click adjustment. It's a continuous movement adjustment. And the settings are at a 0.01 millimeter micro adjustment. So you get some pretty fine adjustments with this, which is amazing for something this small as well. Give you really precision control so that if you turned out a good cup of coffee, if you control all the variables and you want to come back and get exactly the same grind size, you can do that with this. Now, this operates off of batteries, needless to say. So inside are two 1800 milliamp hour lithium-ion rechargeable batteries, and they are quite long-lasting. So my experience with that is that when this arrived, I charged it up to 100%, and I began using it till it got down to, 5% or so, and that's when I recharged. I got about 14 days of 2 cups of coffee a day. In other words, 2 batches of grinding for this. That's pretty close to exactly what the company says you're probably going to get. I mean, it varies depending on how much coffee you're grinding, how coarse you're grinding it as well. But about 2 weeks without having to recharge the unit, which is about perfect for when Gene and I go car camping for 2 weeks off grid. I won't have to worry about recharging the grinder. And even if I do, of course, I have a power station that I can do it with. So you get a good long battery life with this as well. Now, the last thing that I'll mention is the quiet, well, the noise. I won't say the quiet of it, but the noise of it. Very little noise. Quiet is probably a better, more accurate term. They rated at a sub 50 decibel. It's low. It's very low. It's a very low tone, and it's a very little bit of noise. It's actually lower than my hand grinders, which tend to have a higher pitch to them. Now, what's the value of that? Well, one, it's not a noisy grinder. Like a lot of kitchen grinders can be very noisy when they're grinding your coffee. I mean, if you've been in a coffee shop and they grind a big batch of coffee, you know just how noisy a grinder can be. This isn't like that. This is just a nice, low grinding noise that will fit. Well, I'll talk about how long it takes to grind it in a few moments time. So it's nice that it has a low noise. It means basically if you're the first one up, you're not waking anybody else up when you're grinding coffee. Okay, let's move on to the specifications. All right, all the information I'm about to give you as far as specifications for the T38 will be in the video description for your reference. So let's get started. Number one is the weight. And people are looking at this and saying, well, just how much is that weigh? Yeah, it does have a bit of weight. It comes in at 1 kilogram, which is about 2.2 pounds. So yeah, it's not a backpacking item. It is much heavier than any of my hand grinders are, so I would not carry this out on a backpacking trip, at least not very far. But I would take this car camping, and that's exactly what Jane and I will be doing with this when we go for our 2-week car camping trip next week. This is the grinder we're going to take with us. So it has a bit of size, not much bigger than a lot of my hand grinders, but yes, it is heavier, so I'll admit that. But what are you getting for that extra weight? Obviously, the batteries, they have a bit of weight. Obviously, the metal body and construction of this adds to the weight. But most importantly, where most of the weight is coming from are the stainless steel conical burr grinders inside. I mean, you got to have good burr grinders if you want a good grind. It's just that simple. So if they're going to be made of metal to get the quality, then that's going to add to weight. I mean, I do have a few hand grinders that have ceramic burrs. They work. They're just not consistent, and honestly, they do wear out over time. I have other ones that do have stainless steel burr grinders inside. They work even better, and they do add weight. So if you want the quality of a grind, a good grind, a consistent grind especially, you're going to have to take a little extra weight along with you. So what else is important to know about it? The motor inside is a 20-watt motor, and when it grinds, it's running at about 80 RPM, 80 revolutions per minute. Now, why is that important to know? Well, one of the things I learned about this is it does take about a minute to a minute and a half to grind my coffee. And that may seem like a long time. It's really not all that long at all, especially when it's hands-free and you can go on to doing other things. But it's that slow revolution that is producing a quality grind. Now, one of the things that people don't often consider, and honestly, I didn't really give it a thought until I understood more about it, was that if you're using a high-speed grinder, regardless if it's got conical burrs, flat burrs, or even the old school blade grinders, is that you're actually introducing heat to the coffee itself. Because of the speed and the friction and the cutting action, you're introducing heat. Heat will alter the flavor of your coffee. So you want to add as little heat to the coffee itself while it's being ground. So if you want it to grind a little bit more slowly, it won't add that heat to it. So that's important to know. Now, what else is worth knowing as well is, well, this is a little collection cup or dosing cup, 51 millimeters. It will hold about 30 grams of ground coffee. So and that's nice. I mean, will make, we have made pots of coffee, but you actually have to put two, loaded up twice in order to get there. So about 30 grams is what you'll get in this. By the way, it's got a little magnet on the bottom so that it holds it in place, which is nice. I mean, it's not going to fall off. I mean, it will stay on the tray and you're not going to dump your coffee everywhere. So that's just a nice little extra feature. The hopper. The hopper is where the unground coffee, the whole bean coffee, is going to go inside. That will hold about 25 grams. And I say about because, of course, if it's a dark roast coffee, you won't get 25, may not get 25 grams in. If it's a light roast coffee, you may get more than 25 grams in. By the way, look at the nice wood cap on top of the chamber itself, and it's got a silicone seal on the bottom. Oh, even on the bottom. I mean, just nice aesthetic touches to see the wood contrasts nicely on the machine itself. All right, so what else is that you need to know before I get to the demonstration? I guess that one of the things I will mention is my Worsh, when they reached out, offered to send this to me either in the black, the one I bought, or the one that they sent me, or silver. And I chose the black because it just looked more standard, more like what you will expect of a coffee grinder that sits on your counter, the larger, more, not industrial, but home use, but quality ones. Have I to do it over again? I think I might ask for it in silver. And this sounds like a simple thing, but here's the reason why. When the coffee is grinding and going into the dosing cup, if it had been silver, I would have been able to see the coffee down inside. And that's it. That's the only reason I would choose a different color. So just to see how close to being full it is getting. Okay. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do two things at once. I'm going to put some coffee in the grinder. I'm going to show you how the grinder turns on. And I'm going to do it twice because I wanted to do it at the two extremes to give you an idea of just how fine and how coarse the coffee grinder will work. All right, let me just give you a little bit of a close-up of the grinder itself before we load it with coffee. So you can see the Micron adjustments and how easy it rotates to get to where you want to in terms of what size grind. Now, I'm going to set it for the coarsest grind at 65. That's the setting here. So this will be as coarse as the coffee grinder will go. Now, all I need to do is load in. I'm going to load in about a 5 or a 6 gram scoop of coffee into the hopper. Put that aside. Oh, that smells nice. So I'll have to save this and make a nice cup of coffee out of it. Now, the operation of this is simple. On the side, where you can see is the USB Type-C charging port, there is a button. If I press the button once, it'll show me the battery status. And so the battery is at 97% because, yes, I did have to recharge it after about 2 weeks. If I press the switch twice, that starts the grinder. Now, it's going to take, well, I'll actually be able to show you how long it takes to grind it through. What I'll probably do is start it, and then I'll just speed it up because it takes about a minute for it to complete the grind. So let's get started. Okay, I didn't get a chance to turn it around before the screen went blank on it, but 29 seconds for 5 grams of coffee that was ground at its coarsest. So that's not very long at all. So if you're making a French press of coffee, it's just a small one. Or now, if I wanted to make a larger French press, I could reload the, well, of course, that was only 5 grams. So that wouldn't be as long as it would take if you're making a full pot of it. So let's start. We'll take that out, and I'm just going to dump that here. So it is quite a bit of coffee. Yeah, I'm definitely not going to be throwing this away. I mean, it's Rampage coffee. I wouldn't throw it away. But I'll bring in the camera a little closer so that you can see how consistent the grinds are. That, you know, what you don't want is to see a whole bunch of big pieces and a whole bunch of very, very fine pieces. You want to be as close to the same size for every ground. Now, this isn't going to be perfect, but it's not a $5,000 grinder. And yes, you can actually buy grinders that are that expensive, but it's not bad at all. Now, what I thought I'd do before I show you the grinds close up is I'll start the second grind. Now, the second grind, I'm going to run this all the way around, or back around the other way, sorry, to 0. All right, so that's the smallest, finest grind side, and I'll load in another 5 grams of coffee, put the lid on, and press go. Whoops. Got to remember to put the dosing cup underneath, right? All right, that took over 3 minutes. So there's going to be quite a difference in the range of time, but you're going to see that, remember, this is only 5 grams of coffee, but you know, it's considerably longer. I just want to make sure I can give a clean spot to dump this. Well, and again, I'll give you a close-up in a minute. But this, well, I mean, you can see, it's like a cake of powder. Look how fine that is, right? All right, let me bring the camera in a little closer so you get an idea of the two extremes of how coarse and how fine this coffee grinder will make. All right, I think that'll give you as best a demonstration as I can do on camera here. I don't have an analyzer that will actually tell me how consistent the grinds or what proportion, average size they are. But you can see that they're pretty consistent. There are some larger ones that are mixed in with the smaller ones, and some ones that are undersized as well, considering the coarseness of the grinds. But basically, they're pretty uniform right across, and that's all important to having a consistent cup of coffee. You don't want some of your coffee over extracting and some of your coffee under extracting, because it will impact the flavors. So that's not bad at all. Now, when it comes to the other extreme, I got to be honest, I cannot see very many times that I would be using coffee this fine. I mean, this is finer than what I would use in an espresso maker. But look at that. You can see it's on my fingers. It's a powder. But if you are into making a Turkish coffee, or you want a super fine grind for, I don't know, some other reason, maybe cooking, it's even hard to get that to spread itself out there. But again, very, very fine and very consistent as well, which is all important. Okay, I'm definitely going to be saving this coffee and making myself, I'll grind it all very fine, make a consistent cup, and I'll make myself maybe a French press or something with it after this video is over. All right, I think that's enough of a demonstration. Let's wrap this video up. A few closing thoughts for the Geimori T38 portable coffee grinder. I think it's important that we again talk about who is this coffee grinder for. So this is intended for the person who is looking to make the best cup of coffee possible, regardless if you're on the road, if you're camping, or just at home. You need a grinder that will make not only a very precise grind size, but a very consistent grind size from batch to batch. That's who this grinder is best suited to. So if that's you, then you want to take a look at this, because this really does offer up the performance, I won't say equal to a $5,000 grinder, but certainly better than any of the hand-operated grinders that I currently own. And yes, there are some expensive ones out there, but I don't know that they are any better than this. And this also offers you the convenience of just touch the button and let it do its work while you're getting ready with everything else you need to do to make that really good cup of coffee. Okay, what I'm going to do is put all the specifications as well as the links in the video description so you can take another look at this grinder and see if it's something that you might be interested in. If you have any comments or questions, put those in the comment section below. But until next time, get out and explore and take that path less traveled, because it will make all the difference. Bye for now.